Hello and welcome back to Hold On I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our review of UFC 298, which was headlined by Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria for the featherweight title, and with a co-main event of Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa in the middleweight division. A stonking card in my humble opinion, and I'm joined by my regular co-host Tom Ballum, who has nodded at my assessment. I assume he feels the same, and I assume he feels the slight disappointment I have, which was, I could have done with more rounds in all of these fights, pretty much. Like, this was a good card, a very good card, and kind of gave me a little bit more faith in the world of MMA.
Yeah, the UFC is back with a bang with this one, and as we've discussed previously, more to look forward to in the very near future with 299 and UFC 300, which we now have a main event for. But sticking with this card, Joe, it was hellacious, it was violent, it was difficult to score in places.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into that. I'm excited to get into the scoring of this card.
Yeah, well, we won't need to do that with our first fight, and the first fight we're going to discuss is one I would not want to see more rounds of, especially not last night, Saturday night,
right?
Because Volkanovski dethroned in brutal fashion.
Yeah, main event. Ilia Topuria defeats Alexander Volkanovski by knockout in the second round. Now, you said there that you didn't want to see any more of this fight. I've got to say, I was loving this fight up to the finish. And then when the finish happened, jaw on the floor, oh my God, he did it. And then I watched the replay and I'm like, that is one of the best knockouts I've seen in a very, very long time. And do you know what I had this feeling of was that the featherweight division is the UFC's champion division, in that we had Aldo, who passed it on to, we're not going to include Conor, who passed it on to Max, who passed it on to Volk, and who's passed it on to Topuria. That is a division of eras, and to paraphrase one of the worst bits of commentary ever, welcome to the Topuria era. This felt like changing of the guards.
Yeah. I mean, I think we will get into that particular discussion and how this manifests in the future, kind of after we first kind of talked a bit more about our emotions and then the kind of more technical details. But I think you did sum it up there with a changing of the guard. Same here, Joe. Watching the fight, it was very exciting and it was really building up. But then, wow, it was a gut punch. It was I got that sick feeling, and I got to say, I did call for this result, and as with all the other fights on this card, I did get it right. Just want to let that lay there for a bit and watch Joe's face. Hold
on, let's just get this right. I got one fight incorrect. It was the main event, but every other fight I got correct.
Yeah, so Joe's highlighting here that whereas I got 13 out of 14 points, Joe got 6, and he's pleased with that, which is good. That's a good showing. So
all right, as we talked
anyway,
before,
I'll say I made the pick, Joe. I made the pick on Topuria, and
yeah.
I feel like I've been justified in that. But ever since saying those words, I felt wrong. I felt dirty, and I have regretted it. And I don't even know if that's changed after seeing the result, because I felt sick to my stomach when I saw what happened. I really, Volkanovski, my God, what a way to go in these last 3 fights. You climbed so high, and it's a steep, dangerous way down.
I mean, 1 win and 3 defeats in his last 4, which makes it sound
2
like
2 knockouts in 4 months.
Yeah. Should we just go on to that first? You think he rushed back too quickly from that knockout by Makhachev?
It's inescapable. I mean, Dana said it himself when asked this question. Of course, he's not a doctor. He can't make those decisions if he's cleared to fight. But how do you not come out with that result? He's eaten shots, not quite like that, I got to say, but he's eaten big shots in the past, and there was a vulnerability to him in this fight. And it'd be very interesting to actually talk about the technical details. I think we're building to that point now, because I've watched the fight twice, and my feelings about it on that aspect, the technical aspect, they actually changed on my second watch through. So,
Really?
Yeah, they did. I'll get into that once I've heard your feelings. So, round one, how did you see it? What caught your eye?
Should I tell you that I scored the round for Volkanovski, the first round, and I thought this was one of those rounds where I'm like, yes, they are building. They're going to be at each other the whole way. It was tit for tat. It was so close that round. I'm like, this is brilliant. This is exactly what we wanted. I thought Elias started that round really well, but he did that thing that I actually do think is a potential issue down the line, is that he really did overreact to the Volkanovski jab. Like, Volkanovski's jab started to get him to overreact. And then I felt that Volkanovski was catching Topuria as he was like shifting from position to position with the jab, like he was catching him in between his movements with it. I really loved Topuria's heavy low kicks, and
not many of them, but when they landed, they Volk switched stances pretty quick after it.
Yeah, he was getting him to switch stances. He was really sitting on those low kicks, like really heavy damage from those. And I wonder if that has like a part of the issues for Volk in the finish, of like maybe it debilitated his movement a little bit. I'm not too sure about this, but Volk also did the right thing in that first round as well, which is he realised you can't fight Topuria in mid-range, and he didn't allow himself to get stuck in mid-range. He didn't allow himself to get stuck up against the fence, you know. And then when he got into clinch positions, it was literally just to clinch. Like, he wasn't really striking too much. He got a really lovely knee to the body and then a knee to the head towards the end of the round, and that's why I gave him that. And also there's beautiful arcing left hook that he caught Topuria with as well towards the end of the round. So I thought that Volk landed the more varied attacks, whereas I thought Topuria was mostly the low kick and then trying to set up the right hand. I also thought Volk got Topuria's hands moving quite well with his body kicks, like the mid kicks he was getting in. So like Topuria was like moving up to defend body and head, and so he constantly had this like backwards motion going with his right hand. And yeah, I thought that Volk was doing really well in that first round, and I thought Topuria was giving him lots of problems, and he was trying to have him to figure him out, which then led into the second round, and I thought, okay, more of the same here. And then Topuria caught Volk retreating in a straight line, which has been an issue in the past. But, you know, Volk has always had so many weapons to mitigate for that. You know, if he catches you going in a backwards, Volk going in a backwards straight line, he'd intercept you with a jab. He's going backwards, he'll cut you off with a calf kick. Like, he always had something to cut you off with. But Topuria got him into mid-range, backed him up in a straight line, he was up against the fence, and then, I don't know if you caught this with the finish. Sorry, I've been talking for quite a while here, Tom, but I'll just wrap it up with the finish here. They both posted their left arms on each other, and Volk did it to kind of keep Topuria off, but by putting his left arm out, he then blinded him to the right hand that came over the top that dropped him. And then also Topuria put his left hand onto Volk so that he could measure him for that right hand to come over the top as well. So they both went to the same technique, and in both of them doing it at the same time, it led to the finish of Volkanovski. I thought Topuria was magnificent in this fight, and I thought that finish was incredible. My only issue is that Topuria needs to change his nickname from the Matador to the Bull, because that's what that man is.
We certainly saw that in this fight. One of the things the commentary did actually successfully pick up on. One of the few moments that they were right was that, perhaps Volk was clearly playing Matador through the fight. I didn't interject there, Joe. I didn't comment because I agree with everything you said. Not much that I would add, really. I also comfortably scored it for Volkanovski the first round.
Okay, cool.
Classic Volk round,
Yes.
Sticking the jab, moving very nicely, beautiful movement, and the volume on his leg kicks was superior. Topuria reading him, chasing him a little bit, and he was starting to wear it a bit, from that jab.
Topuria he was bloodied up.
He was bloodied up, and that's how I felt on my first watch through. then it was a bit of a shock, when the finish came.
Mm.
But the second watch through, I felt very differently. I then thought about the hunter versus the hunted, as opposed to the matador and the bull. If you see the distinction I'm making there. So I really just felt Topuria was building to the moment where he finished the fight.
So you think that like Volk's matador routine was something that Topuria wanted? Like it was almost like he'd fallen into his trap?
I wouldn't go that far, no. I'd say that like Volk is one of the best to ever do it. And
for sure.
You're going to have to oblige him. Might not want to, but you're going to have to.
Yeah.
But more a question that, Topuria was building to that moment. And that moment came about because, he backed Volk to the cage, as you said. And then, took him into his own world. He was keen to emphasize this himself. Whereas Volk was having so much success sticking his jab and moving. As soon as they got involved in some combinations, the threat that Topuria carried, well, obviously showed us in the most definitive fashion the threat that he carried. But also, even when you're looking at slow-mos, highlights for Volk, you kind of realize, like, oh, damn, like, if he makes one wrong move in this highlight here... then he's going out.
Yeah. Topuria was always close. He was always close.
Topuria was close, and just the danger that he carries. Volk made one mistake, Joe. One mistake, and he paid for it in the most brutal fashion. So that was my just a change in emotions, where it was like, oh, this is classic Volkanovski. It was more like, okay, Volk's like he's at peak performance right now, fighting the best that he can. And Topuria just hasn't caught him yet. He hasn't got into that position that he wants to be in yet. So yeah, it was definitive. I've got to say, as much as I love Volkanovski and felt sick to my stomach, it was a beautiful moment when Topuria did win. That moment of disbelief when he walks back, hands on head, like, oh my god, I
can't believe I've done it.
I just did it. And of
Yeah.
course, with the friends and the family, it was.
Oh my god. They were so Spanish, some of those lads. They were so Spanish, weren't they?
Well,
They were like-
yes, but I guess, were they his sisters? Were they Georgian? Like, there was an interesting divide there.
I couldn't quite get a measure of it. I mean, there was definitely a Georgian quality to some of those boys that were rolling into that cage. Fair play to that one big lad. Shout out to you, my friend.
With the chain. Yeah.
With the chain, love him. It was quite a beautiful moment, actually, to see him do that, because I agree with you. Like, I'm devastated Volk lost. I think Volk is, I mean, I always get into this sort of argument with myself, and actually I was talking to a friend about it the other day, where they've gotten into MMA, and we talk about how, like, people who say that they're favourite fighters, and they talk about their favourite fighters, and they say, like, John Jones is my favourite fighter, I think GSP is my favourite fighter, Khabib's my favourite fighter, and it's just like, he said, like, what, the guys that were undefeated and won all the time? Like, what is that really? And the reason why I say Volkanovski is in probably my top 5 fighters of all time is that how he wins and who he beat. Like, yeah, you could say, like, oh, John had this incredible run and George St. Pierre had these incredible runs, but, like, I'm sorry, man, beating Rashad Evans or Josh Koscheck has nothing over beating Max Holloway for me. Like, that achievement is greater than those, in my opinion. And how he did it as well, on all 3 occasions. The first time where he bamboozled him, the second time when he came back from, the jaws of defeat, and then the third time where he absolutely masterclassed him. It's that quality of Volk. It upsets me to see him lose this way, but then the joy of seeing a young guy like Topuria take the crown, that's brilliant. And I don't think, and it's okay to be upset that Volk lost, but you should also be delighted that we've got a guy who's going to continue the lineage of featherweight. Like, that is something that we should be happy with. The featherweight is not a bullshit division that's going to be held up with stupid politics. I mean, Topuria said some crap recently, and Dana has said, like, let's steady on that, mate. You are going to be defending your title regularly, thank you. Real Madrid, yeah, I heard you got a roof on that stadium. We'll be taking that, thank you. They obviously see the money in Topuria, so they want him out there quite regularly. And, man, a guy who can speak that many languages, who can knock out the best fighter in the world, or one of the best fighters in the world, That's another thing actually in this performance, and I'll link it to his Emmett win. That fifth round against Josh Emmett, where Josh Emmett was just like, right, I've got to go out there, I've got to put hands on this guy. And in the first half of the fifth round, he was just so measured, lets Emmett sort of like get his adrenaline dump, and then he went back to work. And you saw that here in this fight. Volkanovski's doing his thing. That's okay. I'll let him. I will get him. I will wait, and I will eventually get him. And that's what happened. And it was a fantastic performance from Topuria. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm so excited to see what he does next. Like, how can you not be?
Absolutely. No, again, I agree with you on all counts there. And it does bring us to where we stand with both of these fighters.
It's a rematch, isn't it?
No, well, this is the thing, Joe. This is the thing. If Volkanovski hadn't fought Makhachev, like this second time, the second Makhachev fight in particular, nobody would have any doubts about that, and they'd be really enticed by that prospect.
Yes.
Yeah? If this was the freak knockout, the one blemish on his career, he's so hungry to get back in there, go to Spain, and get it back.
Yeah.
I love that. But that second loss to Makhachev, it does change everything. Suddenly I have a bit of hesitancy about that rematch and when it should take place.
So basically, this is all Charles Oliveira's fault for getting injured and falling out.
It's Alexander Volkanovski's fault, Joe. Like he rolled the dice. He didn't need to. He said he was scared he wouldn't get a second shot. He would have got a second shot. Everybody would have see that fight again. He would have got it. He took a fight against, against
he lost
Makhachev, Joe.
The pound for pound
13
best
days
fighter in the
notice
world.
when he's been drinking beers every day. Like what?
Yeah.
Like that is not the Volk that I love. And obviously he's having a hard time living with that now. And now, Joe, I just don't know where he stands. Like a man who's had the run he's had, of course, you can't argue against him getting a rematch, but god damn, does it make me feel uncomfortable thinking about that happening anytime soon.
Does it remind you of when Aldo rematched Holloway? Like, I remember the first time Holloway beat Aldo in Brazil, and Aldo was doing well, and then Holloway just put it on him and beat him up. And I remember the finishing sequence for that. It went on for like minutes of like Aldo doing everything he can to keep Holloway off of him, but just Max beating him up. And then the rematch happened, and I was just like, I don't see a way for Aldo to come back in this. And then Max beat him even worse the second time. Like, I think this is something that I've come to accept with MMA that maybe some people haven't done, because I think there's quite clear groupings of when people become MMA fans, and I think the pandemic was a really big time for that. And Volkanovski had the second Holloway fight where people were pissed that he won. He had the Ortega fight, which had one of the most incredible rounds ever. And then he just built up his character and personality, and he had the zombie win and the third Max fight and then the Makhachev fight, and he built up this popularity where people have now followed him for about 4 years. Like, this guy's great. Oh my God, you got to watch this guy fight. He's incredible. And then you see him lose like this. I think this could be an endpoint for some people as fans. Whereas for me, for someone who's been watching this sport now for over 15 years, this is just the natural order of things. I'm sorry to sound like the old guy on, like, telling these youngsters, like, you don't know what you're talking about, but this is just the sport. The young eat the old eventually.
You don't have to go out like this, though, Joe. And it does feel like he's going out. I don't know. Like, yeah, we can't argue
what do you think Volk should do then? Like, I assume, okay, you're basically saying don't take the rematch and move on to something else.
No, he wants to get it back, all right? He wants to get it back, and I respect that. But I'm saying not right now. And it doesn't make a difference if Topuria fights somebody else at featherweight first.
Ivloev, for example.
Yeah, well, there's no... I mean, come on. You can't, let's say. You want to have Evloev in the Bernabeu? That's what you want. The UFC's going to Spain, and you take a Movsar, the decisionator Evloev there. I mean, he was dismissive of Movsar, and I think rightly so. He was dismissive of everyone else too at featherweight.
But he wants to fight Conor. That's his whole thing. Like, I'll fight Conor. It's just like, yeah, I mean, he'll kill Conor. Like, I'm not even messing with that. He'll absolutely destroy 2024 Conor McGregor. You know, there's that great clip going around of like Luke Thomas when he was talking about oh, maybe Topuria should fight Paddy Pimblett, and he's just like, Topuria would fucking kill him. Like if you like Paddy Pimblett, you don't want him to go near Topuria. And, you know, what else is there other than the Volk rematch? Yeah, that probably will be the one. I don't see them running Real Madrid Stadium. Like, can we just get that out of the way? They're not going to do that. They should, but they won't. But yeah, why don't you have something else in between the Volk rematch? Have him fight Evloev.
I think for Volk that's fine. You know, I really think that's fine. I like if Holloway beats Gaethje, how can Holloway not be next? How could Holloway not be next if Volk isn't the one? I don't understand this.
It depends on what Max wants, though.
Max wants his belt back.
Right.
It keeps him awake at night, mate. I know he wants his belt back. I know. Me and him, we understand each other. Because he's an MMA fighter. He's a former champ. He was the best to do it. He was Alexander Volkanovski, all right?
Yeah.
And this is the aberration that's just happened. But the thing is, Holloway stayed there, Joe. He's put away, obviously, Chan Sung Jung. You have to do it. And, you know, comfortably schooled Arnold Allen. Like, he's
and
there.
Yair.
And, Yair, he had to go to the well for that. All-time whooping on Calvin Kattar. You know, he stayed there with the best of them. I can't see how a Holloway win at UFC 300 doesn't lead to him fighting Topuria if Volkanovski's not going to step in.
So do you not think... So then if Gaethje beats Holloway, there's no way he gets the featherweight title shot then? Even though it's upper weight class.
Yeah, it does hold significance though, right? It does matter, even if it's upper weight class.
Sure.
I think there is a way, because, you know, you are looking at a slightly strange division. Like, there is some merit to what Topuria is saying in that it's time to do away with, you know...
Brian Ortega.
Well, he's fighting soon as well.
He's fighting Yair next week, isn't he?
He's fighting Yair. I can't believe these guys are in the top 5, but...
Yeah.
So there are names. I just, as a Volkanovski fan... I want to see him sit out.
We can see a potential name on the horizon, which might be Aljamain Sterling. If he beats Calvin Kattar, then gets another win against, you know, whoever, he could get in there. Why not?
Wouldn't it be fun for Volk to fight Aljamain, for example?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Particularly after what Aljamain said, we're like, oh, if I can't beat this Sean O'Malley, what the hell would Volkanovski do to me? Just like, you know, which was
let's find out.
Yeah, well, let's find out. Why not? Let's find out. Look, I mean, now we're starting to talk. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things here. Max versus Topuria could be incredible.
Yeah,
like that could be an all-timer fight.
Yeah, I feel like you're down on Max because of the third fight with Volkanovski.
No.
He's been there for so long.
No, I'm worried. I'm slightly down on Max because I'm worried about the Gaethje fight. I'm worried about what condition he'll be in afterwards. Like, I know that you've been a little bit, like, not so... Basically, I love Max Holloway, and I don't want to see him get, like, killed in there. And I'm worried when he faces Gaethje, he could be in a lot of trouble. Although I do have some thoughts that I'll save for our UFC 300 preview, where I actually do think that Max has got a very clear way to beat Gaethje. But I'll save that for our preview episode of that. But what am I trying to say here? I just want to see this. I want to see this champ fight contenders. I want him to make some clear top contenders, and I want to see him chop them down if he can do it.
Yeah, it remains to be seen how active he's going to be as a champ and what kind of champ he's going to be. But it's an exciting time for sure, and troubled waters for Volkanovski. You know, God, imagine if he picks the wrong fight next, Joe, and it goes down the same way.
He moves up to lightweight and fights Michael Chandler? Just gets blown away by Michael Chandler with his ridiculous mitts.
Yeah, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Joe, the co-main, we've got to move on. I'm sure we can talk about this for hours, but we're 25 minutes in now.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
No. I mean, it's that kind of result. It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. And one of those powerful moments, you know. Yeah. But we had some other great fights on this card, not least of all the co-main.
Oh, what a ripper! What a ripper of a fight. Robert Whittaker.
Thank you, Robert Whittaker. Let me say
defeats Paulo Costa by unanimous decision. Tom, I'm actually really interested in how you scored this fight. So I'm going to ask you straight up. How did you score this fight?
I scored at 30-27 for Robert Whittaker.
Same. I scored at 30-27. But yeah, okay, good.
Right.
Like, because I know that
if that wheel kick sits him down in the first, if it sits him down and he's only saved by the bell, which he kind of was only saved by the bell, but if it actually sits him down, then I could give it to Costa. But you can't dominate the man for 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yes.
Put the work on him and then get wobbled a little bit by a head kick that doesn't even sit you down, and then have the round taken away from you. If anybody's scoring any of the other rounds for Paulo Costa, then
what are you smoking?
Unplug the podcast right now. Get off my channel.
Yeah, get out of my face.
Yeah,
because there's no way you can score it for that. I mean, what a fight! I mean, again, it was close. It was close, but every round I felt was a Whittaker round because of that. I will say though, I watched this and I was a bit like, I think Bobby Knuckles has lost a step. I just think he's just not quite the explosive, springy, quick in and out Robert Whittaker. He's slightly there in the pocket a bit more now.
Let me jump on you right there, Joe.
Yeah.
I said thank you, Bobby Knuckles, and I said it for a reason. He obliged us here. He did not need to fight that fight on those terms, and he chose that way. He chose to fight like that. He chose to put on a show. He wanted to make a statement. He was saying that all week in the run-up, and that's what we got. He could have picked him off at range. He could have. He could have fought like Ian Gary did against Jeff Neal. Not that I'm going to reveal much more about that fight, but he could have outpointed him. He's good enough.
Yeah.
I didn't think he lost a stop. The other thing, Joe. The other thing that we have to highlight, a key theme of this fight: the chin on Paulo Costa.
Oh my God!
God tier chin. It's
yeah,
unbelievable. Man his head was just snapping back all night, and he was just unfazed, like almost no tell. Now, if Bobby Knuckles commits to that kind of attack to make that kind of fight and doesn't hurt you so bad that you're compromised and he takes away from it, then you've got to credit the opponent rather than...
thank God USADA's gone. Oh, thank God. I'm just so glad it's gone. I'm so glad it's gone. Because if this is what we're going to get now, we're going to get bantamweights on a shitload of EPO, and we're going to get middleweights who can take shots like that. Oh, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord indeed. This is... I mean... maybe Whittaker did oblige him, but I don't know. There's a part of me that's worried about him potentially losing a step is all. Again, as you say, Costa, he took those shots, but he worked Whittaker as well. He made Whittaker get to work. And do you know what I was thinking? Was when Bisping brought up Whittaker's performance against Vettori about that, and I was just like, if we get that Whittaker against Vettori, where that was like a 9 out of 10 performance from Robert Whittaker that night against Vettori, where he put the absolute work on Vettori with such slickness and skill. And maybe there was a part of me who was expecting that, because if he put on that performance against Costa, I'm like, give him a title shot. Do you know what I mean? Just get him straight back in there, get him back into a title shot. But we didn't quite get that. And I think that's maybe my worries, because I know he can have that Marvin Vettori performance. But if he did what you said, which is, I'm going to oblige this big lummox, and we're going to swang and bang, then fair fucks, Robbie.
I stand by that. It's also, the manner of his loss to Duplessis did leave some questions. We had some worries for him. He passed the test here, Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
He passed
flying colours for us. 3 rounds to none.
Flying colours, took those big shots, got bloodied up, showed that kind of that heart, and also, that resilience to fight on those terms. I mean, because Paulo Costa. Can we talk about some of the techniques in here? I actually want to talk about... I'll tell you what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Costa's jab.
Yes. Oh my God, the jab. The jab was so good.
I'm going to use the word jab, but it's like a clubbing, brutalizing, punisher. It's not like a... You know what I mean? He throws it with so much force. It's almost like a straight, but it's not.
Yeah. It's like a lead hand straight.
Just this weird big meat hand fist, all muscle, thrusting through the air. Brutal.
Do you know? It's almost like a caveman's club. I'm imagining, just as an arm. Also, Whittaker's jab, the sort of staggered jab where he'll step in half jab, not fully commit to it, start to move back slightly, and then fully jab in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You're at the end of the reach.
Oh, brilliant! And then also Whittaker in the second round, he threw a calf kick. And then he threw a 1-2-3 combo afterwards. I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, it was so dope. It was so dope. Fuck it. I'm coming around to what your way of thinking. He obliged him, didn't he? He oblige him.
He absolutely obliged him. Absolutely. Yeah.
And actually, sorry, I've just finished this. You can tell that he obliged him as well, because when he walked out against Vettori, he had this smile on his face. He's just like, I'm about to whoop this fool. I'm going to whoop this fool. And then when he came out against Costa, he was like, banging his chest, and he was like fired up. You could see it, and I was just like, I've not seen him like this in a long time. The last time was the Adesanya fight, the first one, and I was just like, man, I hope we don't get that. But yeah, he obliged him, I think, didn't he?
I mean, I think he takes great pride in the way in which he beat Romero. The fact he took those, got beat to within an inch of his life, but came through it like an absolute warrior. He's obviously got some Pacific Islander blood in there.
Yes,
certainly got that culture, and I think this was for him. This was for him. This was for the fans. Like, he was listening like a gladiator in the Colosseum. After the fight, bloodied and bruised, he was kind of listening to the crowd cheering. I hope you like that. Because he didn't need a fight like that. So I'm glad I've persuaded you of that, and I'm very confident in it. One more thing I want to talk about. One more thing technique-wise. Can we talk about Costa's lead leg? The kicks he was getting off of that.
Oh my days!
So dangerous.
Whipping.
Yeah,
whipping that.
Whipping. Where did that come from?
Do you know what? Maybe this time in between the Rockhold fight and this fight, he's just been away in the lab the whole time. Because he did look a bit slimmer as well, I thought.
Yeah.
He looked like he'd been fully committed to a training camp and working on his craft. Because I feel like with this is one of those fights where I don't want to see Costa go down the rankings.
No.
I just want to leave him where he is.
But Paulo Costa, the rankings are redundant to him. They don't matter for Paulo Costa, because I can just say Paulo Costa and another fighter.
Yes,
and and you'll want to see it.
Costa Kopilov, for example.
That sounds a little brutal after what happened here, but really, there's just so much you can do with him. He's so fun. I'm glad the UFC signed him, and I hope he's not out for too long.
Same, get him back in there soon. Here's my matchups, by the way. I want to throw out there. Whittaker, Hamzat.
Oh, Jesus.
And Costa, Strickland.
Oh, my God.
Both 3-rounders.
Can you tell me why it's not the other way around?
So I want to keep guys who are winning facing each other, and I want to have two guys losing at the top of the divisions facing off of each other to sort of you're having to restart against one another. I'm not big on guys who are losing facing guys who are on a winning streak necessarily all the time. But I like it when
we have talked about this, where if you're a top ranked guy and you lose, obviously you fight down, right?
Of course, yeah.
And fighting down can be fighting somebody down who's just won. Presumably it will be, because if you win, you win the right to fight up.
Yeah.
Which is where, for me, we could justify Whittaker, Strickland, and Hamzat versus Costa. It's just too tantalising. That could headline UFC 300, Joe. It's not gonna, but I'd be fine with it.
Look, I mean, I feel like Whittaker, Hamzat, if you just make that's an automatic number one contenders fight for me. Do you not want to see that? Whittaker, Hamzat?
I love Whittaker, and I love Volkanovski. It's too much and it's too soon. Let me recover.
Oh, no. You're thinking that?
Hamzat, Alhamdulillah, standing over the corpse of Whittaker.
When Mike Tyson beat up whatever his name was, and then he was just like, I'll eat your children, I'm going to eat your soul, praise be to Allah, like that. And he's just like, oh my days. Should we move on to Ian Gary, Jeff Neal? A fight where both guys demonstrated their flaws and not many of their positives, I've got to say. This was they just cruised a little bit, didn't they, both? And neither of them got out of second gear, and I think that their flaws kind of highlighted each other's issues.
I agree in part. Can we look at the fight? Can we go through it?
Sure. How did you... Okay, should we go round one?
Yeah,
How
walk
did you
me
score
through your feelings on round one, and I'll share mine.
So I gave round one to Jeff Neal. I did that because I thought it was, again, very close rounds, not a huge amount of output or action, and I felt that Gary only really started working in the last 30 seconds. it was mostly Jeff Neal trying to chase him, and he only really got anything going when he started throwing 3-shot combos. The problem was that Jeff Neal, after every combo, clinched, and it's just like there was no changing of patterns or rhythms. So I felt that Gary thought, all right, whenever this guy's throwing now, he's just going to clinch me. And instead of using that as a disguise to set up something else later on, he just kept clinching him. So I felt that started in the first round. But the reason why I gave it to first round to Jeff Neal is that he landed a really nice long straight hand, left hand, and he landed a really nice one to the body.
On the break from the clinch as well. Jeff
yes.
Just landed. Yeah, the two most significant strikes of the round went to Jeff.
So that's why I gave him that round. And again,
I did as well.
Yeah, Gary started working at the end, but not enough for me. Like, you need more than 30 seconds. You know.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there anything else you want to add about that first round?
No. I think you set us up well going into the second.
Second round I gave to Ian Gary. I gave him that round. He started to throw like the sort of Donald Cerrone intercepting knees, where he was thrown to the body, and then I think in the third he landed one to the head. Yeah, and really nice combos. Particularly through that knee at the end of the combos, but again, a lot more evasive footwork going side to side, and because Jeff Neal just followed him, I don't know, it was not quite working for me in the same way for Jeff Neal, who just threw no leg kicks, did he, in that fight? It felt like at least to me, it didn't feel like he threw much leg kick wise. No,
well, I don't know. Yeah, it could have been more, but I feel like they were pretty even on that front. He wasn't as head hungry as he has been in previous fights. What my frustration was is you said that he was following him, and at times he was, and then at times he would just kind of hold back, and he would try to get Gary to oblige him. You know, almost like Chris Curtis, Jack Hermanson to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, Jeff Neal would then like be right back on him, and he would stay there, and when he would explode with combinations, usually to the head. Like, at the end of those combinations, I felt like he found some success. It's just when he took those moments off, then Gary would go back to point fighting him. And clearly, in your view, did enough then to take that round. I gave the second round to Jeff Neal as well. I watched the fights 2 times to confirm my feelings on this. And yeah, I scored both times the same. First and second for Jeff Neal.
Okay. And then, I presume, then third round did you give to Gary?
Yeah, I think that's it. Would hopefully be indisputable.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think he was intercepting Jeff then a lot more of like evasive footwork, stand. That's when he threw the knee to the head, and then the sort of jab body kick that he threw as well. I thought was really cool. Nice teep as well from Gary in that round. So I thought Jeff's output dropped quite.
Gary's a great striker. He is a great striker. The commentary crew were waxing lyrical on him the whole fight, and I felt like they probably prejudiced a few people.
They were told. They were told to do that.
It really seemed that way. And what I thought was a very close fight. Now, we did hear some judges score it 30-27. Wasn't it a split decision? Some people had it how I had it, 29-28, and others 30-27. Yeah. I'm fine also with a 30-27 for Ian Gary.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, he could have won the first and the second. Like, they were kind of not 50-50, but, 55-45 both rounds.
Right.
Like, it's not an outrage if somebody scores it that way. The only outrage would be if somebody could score that last round for Jeff Neal. Yeah, I just feel like Jeff, it's something in his head. I don't know, there was a lot of frustration in the corner with him. I felt like I feel like he's got the tools to beat Ian Gary. And Ian Gary, like, you're critical of him here, but he just did what he does, and Jeff was too good for it.
Oh, okay. So because you think Jeff Neal won?
I think Jeff Neal won, and I also think that
he could have won more decisively.
Yeah, I think he could have. Yeah, I think there are moments in both the first and second where he could easily make it his round. But not just that, more that like Ian fought how he fights. Like he doesn't oblige people unless he can see there are massive technical,
That's true. That's true.
Shortcoming to him. And then the times when that does happen, again, I'm thinking about Song Kenan. Like he starts feeling himself so much that he ends up getting caught. If he relaxed against Jeff Neal, I think Jeff Neal would put him away.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so you're a little bit of like an Ian Gary truther then. Because we've been quite high on him. A little bit. We've been quite high on him.
Yeah, we have, but like it just wasn't. He wasn't doing much to Jeff Neal here. Like he did not want to oblige him. He was, he was sticking and moving, but he wasn't really. Just wasn't hurting him, Joe. He wasn't
at him.
He
wasn't at him. He wasn't. There have been other Ian Gary performances where I've seen these things that you're talking about, where even like the Magny fight, but then Magny's not what he was. That's not the Magny that fought Jeff Neal, is it? I mean, it's a reduced version of the man now. And yeah, I think actually now that you've mentioned this, now that Gary's in the point now of like you're gonna have to fight top 10 every fight now. I'm gonna have to see something from you. I'm gonna have to see what you're like against Vicente Luque or Gilbert Burns or Jack Della Maddalena, because realistically, now that we've seen him against Neal, I'm not so sure what he's going to be like against those other guys. I mean, we'll find out what level Della Maddalena's at next month when he faces Gilbert Burns. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Gary's in an interesting spot now. Part of me feels like this sort of deliberate side-to-side intercepting strikes was just... He felt that was the easiest way to get to victory, rather than like, this is my way to finish him. Like, he knew that Jeff Neal would follow, but as you say, he would get there and just be in the pocket with him. But because Jeff is so left-hand orientated, it could mean that his attacks become repetitive. So maybe, I don't know.
What's next for those fighters? More top 10 matchups.
I would give Gary the winner of Luque versus Joaquin Buckley. The Buck, the boy, he's back, son. Wait, hold on. Are you not cool with the Buck?
I love the Buck. I just feel like I watched him fight Nasruddin Imamov, and I don't need to watch him fight Ian Gary. I know how it goes.
What?
I know how it goes, Joe. Like when you're 5'8" and your opponent is 6'3", even if you've got a leaping overhand that loops, from space and back, to catch the taller man who's an elite striker in his own right, at the end of that, it's just, that's cruel. This is. I
think Gary will underestimate Buckley.
Oh.
And that he thinks he's fighting Song Kanan again, but he's facing the Buck. He's facing the boy, the number one man. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have him face him maybe. And you can't
say. You also said Luque, Joe. You cannot say that name without me just feeling, concerned.
Why? Because of his brain
stuff. Has a bleed on his brain, Joe. You don't match him up with Ian Gary.
Oh wait, hold on. I take it back. Brady versus
that's the right
Gary.
That's the right kind of test, isn't it?
I'm not interested in the Covington one.
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah, I'll go for that.
Because you think Gary would school him?
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. No, I was thinking like a wrestler test would be nice. He is looking at that kind of area in the rankings, and yeah, I'm down for it.
Okay, cool. What about Neal? Jeff Neal? Who's he going to face?
There's not really that many tantalising matchups for him. He's already fought them, He's already fought Rakhmonov, and he's already fought Wonderboy. I mean,
is there anyone outside the rankings at welterweight?
Well, if Jack Della Maddalena is coming, Joe, then that could be a fun fight, couldn't it?
I mean, if Jack beats Burns, he's going to leap well above both of these two, I think. Like, to me, Jack Della Maddalena, if he beats Gilbert Burns, he's a top 5 welterweight.
If Burns wins that fight, he's still right there, though, isn't he? Like, that Bilal fight, it's an asterisk because of the injury. I know you don't want to accept it, but like,
what? No, like, I mean, Bilal won the fight.
Burns, yeah, but he was compromised. He basically, like, didn't get finished by Bilal in 4 rounds, despite having a broken arm or whatever it was.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, Joe. It's Merab Dvalishvili and Henry Cejudo.
Oh my days! What an ass whooping this turned into.
Was it
so close?
Go exactly how we said it would?
I don't know really. I don't.
Henry looked pretty good in round 1.
He did look very good in round 1. He caught him with the exact same combo Moraes caught Merab with. Merab wins by unanimous decision. I assume he scored it the same way, which was 29-28 for Cejudo. Sorry, for Merab, not Cejudo. Whoosh. No, I scored it 29-28 for Merab. I thought that first round was very odd for Merab. I thought he was going to be on him straight away.
Yep.
and the second and third round was going to be the first round as included. But he sort of took his time, and I thought Henry looked really good in that first round. There was a bit where they sort of like scrambled and fell over each other, and Henry ended up on top, and then he grapevined Merab's left leg, and he sort of elevated his hip so that Merab couldn't get out from the position of Cejudo being on top of him. Those grappling exchanges kind of reminded me of Saruki and Gamrot. Well, I was just like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff. No lay and pray here. But yeah, that sort of crunching left hook from Cejudo was beautiful combination. So he'd scouted Merab well. And then the Merab show took over rounds 2 and 3. Is there anything else we can really add to it? I mean...
Well, Henry was surprisingly tired after round 1. And Merab was stood there like he had,
Yeah,
even
been for a stroll.
He was just, yeah. And Henry was panting hard, and that's where I thought, oh, God.
Yeah, man. Should have been on that EPO.
I would imagine he was.
Right.
I hope for his sake he was, but he's 37 years old at bantamweight.
Yeah, not good. Merab, by the way, he got Henry down 3 times the exact same way, which was the single leg, grabbed the single leg, lifted the leg up, and then pulled the leg in, pulled the leg to him, and then swept the standing leg away to take him down. Did that 3 times. And then that incredible takedown with the slam at the end for Merab in the third round, where he just carried him over to the side of the cage where Mark Zuckerberg was for an incredibly cringe moment. And listeners, I'm starting a union. MMA fans against Mark Zuckerberg. We need to kick this nerd out of the sport.
I want to just go back to round 2.
Go on.
Because my favourite piece of commentary for the whole night emerged in this scene here, and it's off the back of round 1, where, as you said, they've kind of had a scramble in the middle of the cage, and Henry's come out on top, and they're going at it again. Merab's taking him down, and Henry's on the bottom, and he starts to move towards the cage to get back up. And I believe it's Joe Rogan, but I'm not sure who it was, said that Merab is dealing with an Olympic champion here who has so many tools to get back up, and this was preceded by Henry Cejudo grabbing the cage and climbing like Spider-Man, which absolutely cracked me up.
Brilliant.
There was a lots of fence grabbing from
in
this.
Leon Edwards level cheating from Henry Cejudo in this fight. This is brilliant.
Olympic level, Joe.
Yeah. Incredible work from Henry in that regard. Yeah, it was... do you know what we saw? We saw a guy who should be fighting for the title against a guy who's 37 and shouldn't be fighting for the title.
Yeah. Great performance from Merab. I mean, he's... My feelings are well documented. They haven't changed. But, like, as a man, he as a personality, he's fun.
Yeah. I actually think, and I know that maybe you think I'm a bit of an idiot for this, but I think Sean O'Malley is not a good matchup for Merab. I really don't think he's a good matchup for Merab. Just a long rangey striker who can catch him at the end of punches against a guy who's shown he's actually vulnerable. His chin can be caught. Who can actually be a bit square and boxy as well. That's the other thing. And who loads up his shots, punches and takedowns quite clearly.
If Merab will fight Sean O'Malley on the same terms he fought Cejudo in that first round, he's getting knocked out.
Yeah. It's not going to go well for him.
And likewise, if he just bull rushes him, like Aljamain ended up doing, he's getting knocked out. So
yeah,
it's fun. It's fun. I can't say I'm super excited for the matchup.
Do you think Corey Sandhagen does the same thing to Merab?
Ooh. I think that's a tough matchup for Merab.
Yeah, same.
I think that's an even more compelling one. Yeah, I love that as a proposition. All hope is not lost. Merab can be beaten.
Sandhagen is just this ominous figure, I feel like, on the bantamweight side, where it's just like, I don't think any of these guys really want to face him, because after watching that Rob Font fight and the Marlon Vera fight, where it's just like, just dominates them on the ground, has a complete mastery and control of the tactical side of things now, and, as we've seen in other fights, incredible finishing ability from all angles at all points. Yeah, I think Sandhagen he's matured very well into this sort of complete fighter in my mind. And I really just want to see him versus Sean O'Malley. Like, fuck off Merab again. Me and mate, you're fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, and then maybe you can have a title shot.
Well, they seem to have acknowledged that they're going to have to give it to him after this. A little bit of a look at Henry, something I wanted to get your thoughts on. Didn't get his moment in the cage.
Yep. That's fine.
Was categoric that he's retired before.
Yep.
You don't get to retire twice. Seemed a bit personal.
It was, and I agree with him though. Like, I agree with the logic. It was definitely personal on his side, but his logic of, well, he's retired before. You've had your moment to retire. I'm not going to give it to you again. It's Merab's moment. I don't want to take from that. I actually agree. Like, again, I think it's coming from maybe not the most sincere place, obviously, but I actually agree with him.
It's not consistent with the past.
And actually, I don't think Henry's actually retired. I don't think he's done yet. I think Cejudo, who's got one fight left on his contract, will fight again, and I think they're going to feed him to Umar Nurmagomedov or someone like that. They're gonna build a guy up, and they're like, Henry, mate, you can leave, but you got to fight this guy. And then
so you think Henry, he needs to chase some bigger money elsewhere and needs to get out of his UFC contract?
Well, you saw the payouts.
Yeah, Joe and I had a bit back and forth on this. I don't want to get into it now because we're coming towards the end of the pod here, but the disclosed payout for Henry Cejudo was $150,000 for show money.
Yeah,
I just cannot believe Henry would fight for that. I cannot believe that. It just doesn't make any sense.
That's the thing, though, is that like you get different pays if you're a champion, though, because he's not going to get pay-per-view points, and you get paid more if you're a champion. So I actually don't think it's that surprising.
Just to put that in context, that's 2 Miranda Mavericks. Who is Miranda Maverick, you asked? It's half a Henry Cejudo, according to their value.
Wow. Yes, that's
just it cannot be the case. The man is an Olympic champion, 2-time UFC champion, Tom. 1 million followers on Instagram, a coach wanted who's interacting with the best in the world out there. Think about the money he gets just for sponsoring a product, showing, giving a speech, motivational. What do you think Zuck will pay for him?
That shouldn't be part of, like, that shouldn't affect his pay in the UFC. We're like, well, you're going to make all this money from all this other stuff.
Of course
like,
it does.
He should be making,
because he wouldn't accept the fight with Merab. He doesn't gain anything from it. Like,
other than
Merab is not a good fight for him.
Other than a title shot. Like, that would be the thing he would gain from it. Like, monetary, he doesn't gain anything, and it's a shame. Look, we should move on. Roman Kopylov versus... what's this guy's name? Hernandez. I forgot his first name.
Fluffy Hernandez.
Fluffy, what's his first name? Anthony.
Anthony,
yeah. And Hernandez defeats Roman Kopylov. That rear naked choke in the second round that he got Kopylov with, perfect example of a grappler being one step ahead of the guy he's grappling with. He was constantly one step ahead of Kopylov, who, by the way, I gave the first round to Kopylov. It was exactly as we called it, which was 3 minutes that Hernandez has to get through. And then he threw the body kick and he caught it and he took him down. And you started to see it. But, I thought Kopylov did well with the takedowns, personally. He stopped 8 of 8. Hernandez was, like, going for it, but he kept pushing him off. And then Hernandez eventually gets him down in a second. There was a lovely left straight to the body from Kopylov. I actually put left straight to the body, nice. So I always like to see those. There was
a few left straight to the body, nice in this fight for him.
Yeah. Really lovely performance on the feet from Kopylov, who, again, I feel like, let's not punish him for this. Like, let's get Hernandez into the rankings, but let's keep Kopylov in the rankings as well, because, he's sick. And, really nice performance from Hernandez. Gets into the rankings. Let's give him a decent matchup. I'm looking at you, Roman Dolidze. Has he already fought Dolidze? Have I Mandela affected that?
Not Fluffy Hernandez, no.
No. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say about this?
Sorry, Joe.
Is there anything else that stood out for you?
No. Great stuff. We called it. I've got to say, when they opened, as they do with their stats, and it was something like Kopylov had stopped 20 of the last 20 takedown attempts.
Yeah.
The highest defense like in middleweight history or something. And man, I'm showing myself up here because I did not factor that into my research. But we emerged to be correct with just that relentless grind of Anthony Hernandez. How many people can stand up to that? Not that many, Joe. He's
great chin as well.
Great chin.
Great
well.
Great chin.
The man's a dog. Like I actually agree with the commentary on this one. He's not, an athletic freak. The technique is not mind blowing. The size, the build, none of that's that compelling. But what he is a grinder.
Yeah, grinder. Him versus Chris Curtis, that could be a good one as well. I'd be down for that. Chris Curtis has got very good takedown defense as well. But the thing is that Hernandez doesn't stop. Like when Chris Curtis faced Rodolfo Vieira, man who's known for gassing, although maybe things will change now that USADA's obviously gone. Man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what the next year is going to be like. It's a totally different sport. So yeah, that was the end of the main card. Tom defends his title with a staggering 13 points out of 14. That's the last time we're going to be doing the double points because that's just ridiculous. I'm not having that again.
The school there, Joe, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not having that.
Have I told you about my coaching classes?
No. No.
Well, more about that next time at UFC 299. Now, look, nod to the prelims here. Guys, go and watch Josh Quinlan versus Danny Barlow. If you don't know the result of that fight, one of those men excite me.
Oosh.
Yes. And, of course, watch Dern, as she is always exciting.
Against Lemos.
And she was exciting in this. This is a great fight. So
in a fun way or in a sort of sloppy way? Or
it's
both?
It's Mackenzie Dern. So.
Okay, yeah. Can't wait to watch that. News came out across this weekend. The main event of UFC 300 is set, Tom, and it's the fight we've all been asking for. Alex Pereira defends his light heavyweight title against Jamal Hill. Or is it Jamal or Jamal Hill? I don't. Jamal Hill. Hill said the day before it was announced, "Oh, they only called me yesterday about it." So that shows you what sort of state that they were in. Dana had done the classic thing of setting up expectations he could not meet by saying, "You are not going to believe this main event. It is going to blow you away." Blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, shit, I can't get the main event I want. Bollocks. Jamal, are you ready yet? Or are we
Is he ready? Is he ready?
I don't think so.
If he's ready, I'm fine with it. It's a good fight. It's a good fight. Good card. It fits.
This card is. I love this card, by the way. Can I read you the card? This is from the bottom up.
Well, I just want to talk a little bit more about this main event before we look at UFC 300 because he did say that Leon Edwards had accepted 3 different matchups. He praised him for it. Joe, none of those 3 matches were Bilal Muhammad.
No. So that was Shavkat, Hamzat, Islam.
Makhachev? Yeah. I thought so as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Madness.
All of those would be amazing.
Oh my god. Imagine if that was Shavkat versus Leon. God damn, that would be such an incredible main event. God, and they didn't. I think that maybe that tells you that they actually are going to screw over Bilal and not give him the next title shot, which would be—that's insane, man. Like I know you're not a Bilal guy, or like you don't like him at all, but like he needs that next title shot, man. Come on, we have to be fair to the man.
Who's he beat, Joe? Who's he beat?
Gilbert Burns.
No.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
And survived 20 minutes with him. You can't beat a one fighter in 20 minutes.
Bilal had 4 weeks training, and I think it was during Ramadan as well, wasn't it? Like I don't think it was exactly in its best state either. Yeah.
I mean, his best win is Sean Brady, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Brady, Luque, Wonderboy, yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. He has to have it. He's beaten top guys. He's beaten top ranked guys. It's just how it works. I'm sorry.
Who's he beat, Joe? What?
I just told you.
You're talking about Burns with a broken arm. Nah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. That's just but
he
that's
already
not
lost
his problem.
To Ian Edwards once.
Yeah, but hold on. Well, he did, yes, but yeah, but
get out of here, Bilal Muhammad.
I'm sorry,
no title
man.
shot for you.
Anyway, UFC 300. Let me read this card to you, starting from the bottom going up. Opening, Calvin Kattar versus Aljamain Sterling. Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Sarukian. Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. Zhang Weili versus Yan Xiaonan in the co-main. And the main event, Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. I'm sorry, man. That's a great card.
Love it.
That is a great card. And people go like, where's the fucking superstar? It's just like, what, you want to see some old dude who's not fought in ages? I want to see
Nate.
Ugh. I want to see the best right now. And these are the best names right now. Or some of the best names right now. Like, this is what it's about. Like, oh, you want to see Brock Lesnar wheezing through another fight? Like, come on, man. You want to see Conor, like, struggling to walk around and... No. I don't want those. I want this card. This card I'm happy with. If Jamahal is fit and ready, perfect. If not, that's on him. But Pereira Hill, that's a stonker, man. If Pereira wins that, he's only beaten champions at light heavyweight. He's only beaten champions. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's the Alex Pereira era. No, it's got to be the most successful, transition to MMA. Well,
yeah,
it is. So we don't have to debate it. But Joe, thank you for coming on.
Yes, listeners, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week. Maybe we can review that UFC Mexico City card with.
It's a good looking card, Joe, but it's not a pay-per-view. It's not a.
So you're not coming back. So what about
the champ does what he wants, Joe. 13 out of 40. I think you need to fight? You're like Volkanovski now. You need some time out. You need to think about what has happened.
What about this fight night here, which is headlined by Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gassiev?
Who?
Yeah, exactly. We'll come back for that. If not, Tom will be back for Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera 2, March 9th. That does look like a stonker, to be fair.
Can't wait.
Anyway, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. You can email us at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. And thank you so much for joining us. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Joe.
And listeners, we'll be back in a bit. Au revoir.
Bye-bye.